Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to the all-new formatted DCEU and MCU Daily. Yes, I am biting the bullet. I am going to cause and create the havoc of DC fans everywhere by combining the DCEU Daily with the MCU. We're going to be talking about the Hamadaverse versus the Snyderverse. But I am really desperate, MCU fans, to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mainly, I want to talk about who I think should be the next Captain America, and I don't think that is Sam Wilson, although I have gotten to know him, and actually I like him now, and I didn't really like him before because he was underdeveloped. Same as Baron Zemo, right? I thought he was a terrible villain in Civil War, but bloody hell, I love him now, and isn't this what streaming should do? Give these characters an opportunity to breathe. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a brilliant piece of work, as WandaVision, by the way, is as well. I think Feige's idea of the way he's done these streaming MCU shows has been absolutely fantastic as well. And I think some people just haven't warmed to them because they expected to get what they get in the movies. That's not the point. Anyway, let's start off with DC. Let's try and keep the DC fans, the existing DC fans who come in to watch the videos, happy as well. So, listen, let's talk about the DCEU and let's talk about the distinct differences from Snyder's plan, which, as far as we know, won't be implemented anymore, but we saw it in a trilogy of movies, against what Walter Hamada, Jim Lee, and Ann Sarnoff and Toby Emmerich have got planned. And I think once I'm through, you'll understand there is a plan going on over at Warner Brothers Pictures, whether you want to believe that because it makes you feel worse if they actually do have a constructive plan or not. So let's go. So Snyder's plan is a complex, compelling, gritty kind of gladiator, kind of Olympic kind of franchise, if you like. So the idea originally was that these films were going to be interconnected. They weren't going to be standalone. So you get Man of Steel, you get BVS. They're literally the same movie. One crosses into the other beautifully. And actually, BVS to that weird music studio edit of Suicide Squad is the same thing. From the very first piece of dialogue that comes out, and it's from Amanda Waller, played by the brilliant Viola Davis, is that Superman changed the world when he flew across the sky. He changed it again when he didn't. Some compelling pieces of dialogue there by David Ayer, we think, because it's not actually his cut of the movie, but it's whoever come up with it, it's brilliant. And then, so you got three films that are totally interconnected, no question about that, but three individual, independent, really different movies as well, which I think is brilliant for a franchise, by the way. Then we get Wonder Woman. This is where the changes were really implemented by Toby Emmerich and Kevin Sugihara on Warner Brothers Pictures. They tried to kind of keep away from the DCEU. It was still Gadget's Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins had come in. Zack Snyder was very much involved in this film. He came up with the story with another writer as well, who had lots of experience with DC Comics. You know, Wonder Woman 2017 is one of my favorite CBMs. And so it's a brilliant film, but apart from seeing a truck that says Wayne Enterprises or whatever it says, in kind of an email exchange between Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince, that's all you get from, you know, kind of the interconnected DCEU. So they're already scared. They're already worried about the reaction from the public, the critics, and kind of they wanted back. You've got to be clear here. Man of Steel was expected to make $1 billion, and Batman versus Superman was expected to make Force Awakens money. So you've really got to understand where they were coming from as a business as well. It's not all about us. We want to see good movies. We want these franchises to continue and to thrive. Of course we do. But they also have to do the business that they want. And the MCU is kind of a double-edged sword. It's a really entertaining franchise, but it also shows what can be done when you do things to attract the normies, the mainstreamers, and the die-hard comic book fans as well. And that's what the MCU does. Now, I know Hulk fans who don't like the way Hulk's been treated in the MCU, and they love Ed Norton's Bruce Banner. They don't like Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner. Some prefer Ruffalo's Bruce Banner. He's a really tame Bruce Banner. Some people say that's how Bruce Banner should be. But Norton played a tame Bruce Banner as well. So there's still issues within the fandom of the MCU, especially with the diehard Marvel fans. But it's a much more popular, loved. It's more unproblematic, isn't it? So let's stick with DC for now. We will get to the MCU fans very, very shortly, but we just want to get to this discussion. So Snyder is doing this kind of. Do you remember the old Spartacus movies, the Ten Commandments? This is what these films are. So you get the first film, which is 2.5 hours. The next film, which is 3 hours, which is the length Zack originally intended it for. Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, it's all in the name, is supposed to set up or kind of link into Justice League, right? But this is a very interesting film and dynamic that this film has. There's a lot of talky. It's very talky. It's very character driven. You get the action at the beginning. We see Bruce Wayne's perspective of the Battle of Metropolis, but then you get a lot of talk. But you do get some tremendous action sequences when they're allowed to breathe. I mean, the Batmobile sequence when he's going after the kryptonite, he's going after Luthor's men with the kryptonite. That's probably the best Batmobile chase scene I've ever seen in live fucking action. It's sensational, and these are the things Snyder can do. Visually, Snyder is unmatched. There's no question about that. He is sensational. He really is. Some people will say he's a one-trick pony, and that's all he can do. I think he can construct an interesting story, and I think he did construct an interesting story for his DCEU. But for some people, it just doesn't work. There are inconsistencies, whatever we say. There is a lot of times where fans are asking questions over at Vero. And although it's refreshing that he responds and the fans and Zack have got this relationship, you really shouldn't need to go to a director to kind of get what was going on in a certain scene. I'm sorry, that's just not the way it should work. You watch the film and you get it. Unless you're overly simple and you don't get anything, then it's good to have a director to refer to, right? But anyway, so it was going to be a cohesive, kind of Spartacus, Ten Commandments, kind of Ben-Hur type of franchise. And that's what the first two movies, at least, are, because they're coming from Zack Snyder. So that's what the Snyderverse was going to be. Now, we've heard him talk about the plan, and the plan was to have Justice League and then another 2 Justice League movies. We don't know if he was going to have a Man of Steel movie in the middle of that either. We'll never know that. And the Aquaman film was always going to come after the first Justice League film. Then they would have continued. Basically, if Snyder would have stayed, then 2018's Aquaman movie would have been a very different movie. There's no question about that. James Wan was already tapped to do it, but it was, look, excuse me, but I've gone on record saying before that I feel that James Wan's vision of Atlantis is better than what I saw from Snyder in his Justice League movie. And now we know what we saw in Whedon's movie was pretty much the vision of Snyder. I don't like the air bubbles. I just think that the way James Wan did it is a much better way to do it, and this is why the film made $1 billion. But it would have been different in other ways. We would have seen Superman and Batman maybe in this film and join the fight or something, so that they would have cameoed, and because that's where we were going with Snyder's verse anyway. In that element, it was no different to what Feige was doing. It was still going to be an interconnected universe. The issues he was driven out for were basically money. Listen, are you telling me if Snyder's movies were making $1 billion a picture, that Warner Brothers would have cared what critics and, diehard comic book geeks would have thought about it? No, of course not. There's lots of people who hate Christopher Nolan's iteration of The Dark Knight, but those films did well, so basically they don't care what you think, right? You've got a right to your opinion, and they don't respond to that opinion, but Nolan was never going to be fired because his middle movie made over $1 billion and is one of the most loved comic book live-action adaptations of all time. And so the issue with Snyder's universe really is money. It didn't appeal to the broader audience like the MCU does. So the Hamada universe, the Hamada, Lee, Sarnoff, Emmerich kind of universe, if you like, and I think we have to say it's an amalgamation of all those people, is going to try and appeal to a broader audience. This is what Ann Sarnoff has already said. And so what you get with this is that you've got these movies that spin off into streaming shows over on HBO Max as well. But the whole idea is to kick this Flash movie off and, not just open the doors of the multiverse, but kick them open, smash them open, and let's see what we can do. Create an interconnected universe, not just within the DCEU, but characters crossing over from their Earths into Earth 1, which is the DC Extended Universe, which will get a bit of a makeover. We're going to see Barry Allen reboot the DCEU universe, which is very exciting. Very exciting. I know, as a Snyder fan, that breaks my heart. And we'll talk about Snyder in the future, if there is one, of his universe and where I think we're heading with the Restore the Snyderverse campaign and all of that as well. But I think in terms of fairness and trying to appeal to a broader spectrum of the audience, and look, there's no question about it. Man of Steel and BVS didn't appeal to the broader spectrum of the audience because the proof's in the box office. And people say, yeah, but look at the money. It nearly made $1 billion. $890 or $83 million isn't enough for them. These are greedy people. They're not spending $250, $300 million a picture so they can only make under $1 billion. Listen, let's get this right. This is fucking Batman and Superman we're talking about. And as much as I love Man of Steel and BVS, and I do, I have to have a balanced conversation. And I've noticed I'm losing subscribers because I'm being honest and I'm not being one of these bullshitting shill YouTubers that sits on the fence. And look, that's fine. I'll pretend they're on one side when they're not on any side. They don't even like comic books or these movies. That's fine. Again, I am a fan and I'm going to tell you what I think, whether you like it or not. And you know where the door is. Just slide those doors open behind me, do the old thing, and walk out at the end of the day. I'm not making any money out of this channel. I'm not going to make any money out of this channel. It's not a successful channel. So if I'm a failure as a YouTuber, I might as well say what the fuck I want, right? I think even if I'm left with one or even with 0 people, it really doesn't matter. I'm still going to do these videos. So it's fun, right? And so you need, as a business, as a studio, you need to appeal to a broader spectrum of the audience. And this is why this multiverse strategy is happening. Look, from the moment that they got the reaction of Batman versus Superman and then Suicide Squad, they've had enough. They knew they couldn't carry on like this. The negativity, the toxicity, the polarization of the reactions to Snyder's movies. But most importantly, they weren't reaching a broader spectrum of the audience, which means lesser money. And, no business is going to do that. They're going to go for the broader spectrum of the audience and try and make as much money as they can, like the MCU. Now, how have the MCU kind of done this? By literally making movies that so many different kind of demographics of people can be inspired by. Basically, it's entertainment, right? But it's a different type of entertainment, right? And this is a franchise where one person is in charge and sets the scope of the stories, and the directors do as they're told, and they tell the actors to look up to the sky and say blue, and they look up to the sky and they say blue. And it works, right? But they are talented directors, and I'm sure they get their way on a few things. I'm not saying it's all fakes, or it's all fake or nothing. I'm just saying that the core storyline, the core direction the franchise is going in, even now, is all down to him. And no one's going to argue with him, because when you're successful, no one argues with you. Yeah, they may disagree with you on a few things, but ultimately, when you persist in your case and you say, this is why I'm doing this, I don't think he's a dictator, by the way. I just think I think he can be a dictator, but I think he does try and listen. I think the original director of the first Doctor Strange movie found out that he is a kind of dictator. But also, he had the opportunity to bring Sam Raimi in, open up the scope of that. Who are you going to choose? And the director of the first Doctor Strange movie is a very talented guy. I've spoke to him over on Twitter before. So, yes, it's a very different mentality. So going back to the Hamada universe, you look at it and you say, yeah, so they're trying to reach a broader spectrum. So how is this actually going to work? So Flashpoint is going to reboot the DCEU. The Flash is actually going to reboot the DC universe like he did to create the new 52. So the DCEU is creating its own DCEU. But as I said the other day This is more going to be like Rebirth than the New 52 because they're not going to forget their histories. I think that's important, and I think that's an important decision that they made over at Warner Brothers Pictures, that everything will be remembered, so they're not that toxic. But things are going to change, and they're going to change the way they want them to change, so this can be a more exciting shared universe. You can't have superhero movies where children can't go to watch. I know that's going to get me hate, but you can't. You can't have a Superman movie with someone where you see Superman's neck being snapped. There's no need for that, right? And I wasn't that triggered by Superman doing that, especially if they actually made it a consequence of his story, which they didn't, but it was just there for a core shock value. So we're going to get a more family, child-friendly franchise, but I don't think that's going to be the case with every movie. I mean, you look at James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, a very kid-friendly director, but this movie is R-rated, and that's from the insistence of the writer-director himself. So that says a lot. So there's still going to be DCEU content for adults, right? But there's also going to be DCEU content for children and families, the Shazam universe. And I think it is. I've said this a couple of years ago, because I think Walter Hamada now has been here long enough, and I think the plan has always been the worlds of DC. And what does this mean? And I'll bring this back, what I said a couple of years ago. The worlds of DC basically means that they're generating universes within a universe, right? So there's going to be the Shazam franchise, the Superman franchise, and they're opening up the scope to all of that. So it's going to be very kind of intense and interesting, and you can choose the universe you like. It's a very listen. I think their plan's very clever. A few fellow Snyder fans say they don't have a plan. I think Walter Hamada has always had a plan. He's a very clever guy, by the way. Look, this is not just a guy who's walked off the street. This guy's been very successful over at New Line Cinema, and this is why he was brought in, because this is what they want, a broader appeal. So it's the worlds of DC and its universes within one universe, and people can cross over, not just from the Aquaman universe to the Superman universe, but from the multiverse to Earth 1. So, parallel Earths, people from those Earths, once Barry does what he does, he's breaking down the walls of the multiverse, and anything can happen in this franchise now, and you're going to get cameos every movie. You could get a movie character cameoing in one of their HBO Max TV shows, or even in the Arrowverse shows. That's the plan. That's the plan. So this is a broader, exciting kind of plan. It is a plan. I like the plan, but I also like Snyder's plan. But unfortunately, as a business, it didn't have a broad enough appeal. Now, the other day, we got that trilogy trailer, didn't we? Zack Snyder's Justice League trilogy. Now, I didn't watch it when I spoke about it on yesterday's DCEU Daily. I sat down and I watched it on repeat, actually. It's actually a very, very nifty, really good advert for Snyder's Justice League trilogy. It is a trilogy, whether we like it or not. Do I think they're trying to send us a message by calling it a trilogy? I think they are. I think Ann Sarnoff was speaking for everyone in that Variety hit piece. I think the whole of Warner Media do not want to restore the Snyderverse. That's why they've buried these Snyder Cut numbers and won't release them, while releasing the numbers of the Nevers the day after that show premiered. So that tells you where they are. There's no secret. They do not want to restore the Snyderverse. That doesn't mean we can't keep on hashtagging restore the Snyderverse. But, tagging their executives like Keelar, it's not worth it, and insulting them and abusing them. Look, they made no promises. They released the Snyder Cut. I think that was fair. I think that was right after what happened to Zack and the kind of movie Whedon put out in 2017. They needed to do that. And we can keep on fighting, and who knows, one day we may restore it. But at this moment in time, nothing's motivating them to keep that going. Yes, there's money there. There's a fandom there. And I thought they would restore the Snyderverse, but I think since the Sarnoff interview and since they did the trilogy trailer, I think we can kind of see with no uncertain terms now, they do not want to restore the Snyderverse, and they're not going to. Now, this weekend, it's the big charity con, Justice Con. It's a great convention. It's for Zack Snyder's fans, by the way. And I'll be watching and I'll be paying attention. I do expect Zack to be asked purposely by someone he's planted in there about this situation and whether we should keep on fighting to restore the Snyderverse or not. I'm a bit like Han Solo. I've got a bad feeling about this. I've got a bad feeling that Zack's going to say, we are done here. But he may say, keep on fighting. It doesn't hurt. Well, we will see what he says in this. He may say very little. He may not want to be drawn into this. Not only do I think his days at Warner Brothers are numbered, because the problem is, once you start exposing the company you're supposed to work for, when your friends who work with you are exposing the company, that you work for and you're trying to fight to work for and work with in the future with this DCIP, it's not going to work. I foresee Snyder doing a lot of work over on Netflix, maybe some other work, but I think Netflix is perfect for him. You see, no big studio is going to take on Zack Snyder because he's more trouble than he's worth to them, financially, I mean. And, Netflix are quite happy to make a bit of money from this. I think they'll make a lot of money from this project. Look, Zack's got his fan base. His fan base can go over to Netflix and, stan Netflix, stan Zack, and it works for everyone. I just don't think Zack works within a big studio. That's sad because I love that trilogy of movies he did. And I will always cherish them and what he went through and what they put him through. But it just goes to show you sometimes, like an auteur and a studio doesn't work. But Zack's not like other auteurs. He's a free spirit. If they tell him not to do something, he goes and does it. Unfortunately, you can't do that when you're working for these big elite studios. I'm afraid there's a way of conducting yourself to get your own way. But unfortunately, the way Zack does it, it was never going to work out. So I think we're reaching the end of the road. But as I say, keep on making the point. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse. You never know what could happen in the future. Things could change. And don't forget, if the Hamada plan fails, I don't think it's going to fail personally. But if it does fail, then there's a good chance of restoring the Snyderverse then, because it'll be a quick, easy, lazy thing for them to do, which they love. What they're doing here isn't lazy. It's actually kind of really expansive. And I look forward to see how it all works out. So let's now focus on the MCU part of the DCEU and MCU Daily. Now, I really want to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier now. Let's give you a disclaimer. You will find a lot of receipts of me hating the MCU in the past. I've actually always had all the movies in my cabinet across from me over there. So I've always enjoyed the MCU, but I'm basically a DC stan. I'm going to be honest about that as well. And my entry to the DC universe was Superman as a 10-year-old boy watching Superman in the movie. And I'm sure even people who are not DC stans maybe can say the same thing about their MCU history. But anyway, so I prejudged Falcon and the Winter Soldier before I saw it. Why did I do that? I saw a lot of commentary, people talking about racism, people saying the new Captain America is racist, and that triggered me. First and foremost, how can the new Captain America be racist, my friends, when his best friend, who died in episode 4, spoiler alert, by the way, whoops, his best friend was a person of colour. He was black. So how is this guy racist? So someone on TikTok was saying, now you tell me it's nothing about racism. Because he was fighting kind of the Black Panther army. I forgot what they call them in the MCU, right? And then when he says like, oh, I couldn't beat them because I didn't have my he didn't have the whatever you call it, let's call it the venom juice or whatever they call it, right? Anyway, so he's actually nicked the vial now, which is very interesting. So he wasn't being racist. He's annoyed. He's annoyed he couldn't beat these people because he's Captain America. He's been trained and he feels he should be able to beat them. But they had the better of him. Obviously, they would. They're trained warriors. And, it's as simple as it was obvious he was going to lose to them. But it's great commentary because he's got the vial in his pocket and he's tempted to use it. And his friend, who's now died, who was a person of colour, by the way, actually said he would have used it. So this is interesting. There's one vial left. Who's going to use it? Will he use it or will someone else use it? So, yes, I misjudged this show. I actually now think, after seeing the first 4 episodes, that this is one of the strongest entries in MCU history. I really do think it's amazing. And I want to talk about Falcon because I've never really been a fan of Sam Wilson because he's been so underdeveloped, a bit like Baron Zemo. And I think both of these characters have been advanced and more developed in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you actually like them now as characters. I will say that Zemo is the one who's really gone under this brilliant character development kind of light, and it's really worked. Zemo is brilliant. The actor's done brilliant. The writing for him is brilliant. We barely got much of him in Civil War. When he was revealed at the end of the movie to be the villain, I was like, I don't care. I don't care about you. I don't read the Marvel comics. I don't know. It means nothing to me. After all this, you're behind it. He manipulated the whole situation like Lex Luthor did in BVS. This is why there's accusations of Kevin Feige maybe having a spy in the DC camp. Don't know what to think about it. It's interesting though, isn't it? Anyway, so we get to know Zemo. He likes a drink. He likes the good life. He's very intelligent. He's just a really good character in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I think both WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, have been great successes for the MCU and Kevin Feige. I think he's done it again here. I think they're brilliant. I think they work. You know, watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's like watching Kiefer Sutherland in 24. It's got that edginess to it, and I think that's right. The movies can do one thing. They can be, audience, they can really appeal to the normies and the mainstream audience, and these can be edgy and bold, and I think both of these projects, WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, have been really bold, and I've really enjoyed them. So, really brilliant, and I can't wait for episode 5 to launch tomorrow. Anyway, the big question has been, really ever since Chris Evans stepped down as Captain America, and I think it was a great loss, wasn't it? I mean, you just think about Chris Evans as Captain America, and you just don't know who can fill this guy's boots. This is the problem. Now, I don't have any kind of issue with Sam Wilson becoming the next Captain America. I just don't think the actor's got the stature or the screen presence to do it. I think it would work fine, but he's never going to be a Steve Rogers. Maybe he doesn't have to be a Steve Rogers. That's a good point as well. But look, what Chris Evans did, he gave it the Christopher Reeve-ness, didn't he? And I don't think anyone's going to do as good a job as Captain America as Chris Evans. It was just brilliant casting. It really worked. I don't know if Chris left because he wanted to leave or Kevin felt it was time to, have a changing of the guard. It wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Feige goes, you know what, Chris, it's time. Perfect time. But let's not forget, Old Man Cap is still out there. As far as we know, he's not dead. That might be something they had, but I doubt it. The reason Kevin Feige did that was to find, to have a way of having him cameo now and again. And there are comics with Old Man Cap in them. So I think we will see Chris Evans now and again in the MCU. Now, there's rumours he may turn up in the final episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But we had a lot of rumours about WandaVision cameos. And I think this is the main reason why people are really, really upset with that show and that finale. I thought the finale was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I don't know why people hated it. But I do. Because they didn't get the cameos that they wanted. But why would you judge a whole series of work and episodes on something so small as cameos? That's just my opinion, by the way, and it doesn't have to be your truth. It's just my truth. So yes, who will be the next Captain America? So there's been arguments. Originally, I thought they were going to give it to Bucky, and I think he would have been amazing. So I don't think that's going to happen now. I was thinking, actually, this really fucked up person who could get it. What if Zemo becomes the next Captain America? That would just be hilarious, wouldn't it? Right? That would just be nuts. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Feige. I can't see it happening. I think a person of colour will be the next Captain America. And I think there's even people thinking that maybe the character won't be called Captain America anymore. Maybe Captain Universe or something else. Now, again, these kind of things trigger people. And I don't think Sam Wilson should be the next Captain America. And actually, I'm about 75% sure now that he won't be. No one's told me anything. I don't know this for sure. This is just my personal preferences. and opinions. So I don't think it's going to be Sam Wilson. If it is, it's predictable and boring. But look, at the end of the day, it's fine. It's just, I can't see. Look, what I'm going to have to do really, because we've got to know Sam now. I like him a lot more than I did. So it's fine him being Captain America. It just won't be the same. Captain America won't be this character of presence anymore. He'll just be another member of the Avengers. And that's fine. And that'll be interesting. I think that Karli will be and should be the next Captain America. I can see you getting very angry, the one person who's still watching this video. Oh my God, you're being woke, man. Well, I'm not really. I just like the actress, and I think that she's playing a big role. And I think what got me thinking to this, of course, was in episode 4 when the guy who was in the terror cell with her, the Flag Smashers. I want to talk about that concept, by the way, because I find it fascinating and timely and amazing. But when he said, you should be the next Captain America, I thought, fuck me. That's a fucking good idea. No. Before you switch off and before you kill me, right? And don't forget, you can tag and follow me and chat to me over on Twitter at MoviesTVMad, by the way, so you can come and attack me after this video. But yeah, I just think Karli being the next Captain America would be amazing. She's a woman of colour. That would be a big statement as well, by the way. But I don't want her to be Captain America just because she's a woman of colour. In fact, that's nothing to do with the situation at all. I think when you look at this character of Karli, and I can't remember she's been in any MCU movies as this character before. I can't remember her anyway. But I think what we've seen from this character is amazing. This is a leader of a terrorist cell, right? That's got, look, because we can talk about the Flag Smashers concept while we talk about Karli as well. So basically, these people during the snap, and I love the way they kind of interconnected the snap to have consequences for the future of the MCU, for the MCU as well. The Marvel universe is having consequences from this snap. And I like that. And so when the snap happened, right, there weren't borders anymore. And people were allowed to go wherever they wanted because the whole world needed help. So all these people, like, who are now part of the Flag Smashers, like Karli, like that world. No one would throw them out of their countries. Look, there's big commentary here. And, imagine that if we decided if we had this conversation in the real world. Should the world just be one world, or should it be divided by cultures and countries? You can still have your cultures, by the way, right? But it's still one world, right? You would never want people to lose their cultural backgrounds, would you? That would be fascism. But anyway, and so I like the concept of the Flag Smashers because what these terrorists are actually fighting for is quite pure. And I know there's a lot of people who will be on the right who would hate the idea of the world being one world, and I get that. And I'm not ready to have that discussion. I've always wanted the world to be one world myself. I'm not really someone who cares about my nationality, whether it's Greek, Cypriot or British. I don't care because I've been rejected by both kind of communities anyway from the moment I was born, really. So I don't give two hoots about nationalities or belonging somewhere. I'm a human being, yeah, believe it or not. And I'm from the planet Earth, and I'm happy to explore and be anywhere in the planet Earth and belong to any community from the planet Earth. So I think they're saying something really raw and real here. And, these people during the snap were, they were in a place, they felt welcome, and then they were booted out because they apparently didn't belong there. So then they formed this terrorist unit cell, whatever you want to call it, the Flag Smashers. And I love that word, and it's kind of interesting, isn't it, to have, because obviously I think the Flag Smashers are from the comics. I don't know, I'm not a big Marvel reader, but I just love the concept. So you look at Karli as a character. She really is a hero. Now, I know we saw her blow up that building and kill 2 innocent people. You can call them innocent. She doesn't call them innocent. So you would say someone who's killed people for the reasons she's killed them for maybe should never be Captain America. But here's a question for you. Maybe she should. Maybe for the reasons I'm talking about and the reasons she's taken this fight on, right, to become the Flag Smashers. Maybe that's the reason she should become Captain America. Maybe Captain America shouldn't be a pure person who's never done anything wrong or never killed anyone. Now, I love Steve Rogers, especially in the MCU, and he's a character you look up to, and he's pure, and he's got this moral kind of thing going on with him. And that's great. He's very similar to Superman, who's got this moral line that he doesn't cross normally, apart from the DCEU. We'll talk about that another time. But I think if you like, she's more. If any fans of 24, and I'm a big fan of 24, Jack Bauer used to cross that line a lot. Batman crosses the line now and again as well. And so I think it will be a very interesting kind of choice to have Karli as Captain America. And I do think it's odd that they had the guy saying, you should be the next Captain America. And she said, that shield needs to be destroyed. And maybe the shield will be destroyed and that's another controversial thing. So look, I think this show is controversial. It probably is losing a little bit of the audience because of the commentary it's making. And I think it's the same kind of reaction I had to it when I heard people talking about it, that it's about racism. And there is an element of racism going on here. But I don't think the commentary of racism has anything. Obviously, when you look at the new Captain America, you do see that fascist about him, don't you? But you can be a fascist without being a racist. His friend was a black person, so he's not a racist. It's not possible. Or you couldn't be friends with a black person. That would be stupid. Unless you're trying to tell me he's just being friends with him just to pretend he's not racist, which again is a ridiculous thing to say. So he's not a racist. But I think this character, who is the new Captain America, and his name escapes me, I think he's a very interesting character too. He's a victim. He's a victim of the way we live in life and the mentalities of life. And all he wants, he admits in episode 4 that what they did in Afghanistan and all that, they got medals for, and he doesn't feel they deserve those medals. And finally, he's Captain America. He's got this uniform on that stands for something pure and good and decent, protecting innocent people. And he's so proud of it. And then at the end of that episode, right, there's no pride left because he kills one of Karli's people, smashing the shield over this guy right until he is dead. And now, and this is interesting, and this is an interesting narrative now, literally the shield is tainted. The Captain America shield is now officially tainted with blood. Isn't that amazing? So now I think we are looking, maybe they will rest the shield like Patty Jenkins did with Wonder Woman's shield in Wonder Woman 84, which I think is very, very interesting. And if Patty does do Wonder Woman 3, I don't know if we'll see the shield and the sword back again. That'll be interesting as well. But I think we are going to lose this shield. But unlike Patty, I think Faye's going to be very blatant and very vocal about why that's happened. One of the things about Faye, he's always giving the fans and the consumer and the audience feedback. And I think that's important. And it's something that DC and Warner Brothers Pictures are going to have to learn to do. They need someone. That's the thing. The MCU fans love Kevin Feige. The DC fans don't like Walter Hamada. That's the problem. You need a figure there where people like that person. And when they're talking about it, they're passionate and they're knowledgeable about the material, especially the source material. And this is something that DC are going to need. Now, we got Jim Lee there, so I would think in the future they will put Jim Lee out there, kind of your favourite uncle to talk about these things. But we will see what happens with the DC live-action universe, whether it's going to drown or, it's going to float and succeed. But yeah, so I can see them doing away with the Captain America shield. It's controversial. How do I feel about that? Look, we live in very polarizing times, as I keep on saying on these videos, and it's difficult. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone's passionate. What I would say is all this talking and shouting we do on social media, does it change anything? It doesn't really. There's a world out there. And if you want to affect change, you have to go out there in a peaceful way and convince the people who are moulding this world to do better. And you need to become a part of that moulding if you're passionate enough. Shouting on social media never changes anything. Anyway, so this is why I feel that Karli would be a great Captain America. It's what she represents. She sacrificed so much to do this because She's fighting for something good in a bad way. It's like when she threatened Sam's wife and children. She says she would never have done it. But just think about this, Karli. How did you make them feel when you made that threat? Imagine that. Just a vocal threat is enough to scare and damage someone psychologically for life, right? So there's many, many reasons where people will say she cannot be Captain America, not after what she's done. I think this could be the direction we're headed in. Now you have receipts and you can tell me, Mick, you were wrong. But I do believe there's a good chance. I love the actor. I love this character. This character, for me, has been the best thing about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And this show has had so many fascinating elements. I mean, Sharon Carter, what's going on with her? Is she the one behind all of this? And is she the one making the threats to Karli as well? We do not know. There's so many things to discover. You know, is it 2 episodes left? I can't believe there's only 6 episodes to this show. I think it's only 6 episodes. Did you check the mid-season trailer? Look, so I'm loving it. And really, really excited to see episode 5 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And let me know in the comments down below. Would you like to see Karli as the new Captain America? Would you prefer... This is an easy one, right? I won't set up a poll, but basically tell me, who would you rather be the new Captain America? Sam Wilson or Karli? Comment down below. Let me know what you think constructively. Peace. And finally today, Scott Edwards, who is a super geek, a super fan, who makes suggestions for articles and asks me questions for me to answer here on the DCEU Daily normally. Today we're the DCEU and MCU Daily. So remember, you can do that. Tag me over on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. No need to DM me. You can tell me on my timeline. Ask me a question and I will answer it here, or suggest an article for me to read out. So this is the one Scott Edwards wants me to do. Phase 4 makes Doctor Strange the MCU's protagonist, not Scarlet Witch. While Scarlet Witch may be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange will be the protector of the universe in the MCU's Phase 4. Yeah, one of the things I will say about this, and this is a Screen Rant article by Nicholas Ayala, right, well, I will say, yes, Scarlet Witch is more powerful than Doctor Strange, but he has more wisdom. I think no one can have any issues with that. Despite Scarlet Witch's central role in WandaVision, Doctor Strange seems to be the main character in Phase 4 of the MCU. After his own movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Phase 4 starts a new Marvel saga with a revamped lineup of superheroes. After the departure of Iron Man, Captain America and Black Widow, now characters like Falcon, the Winter Soldier and Scarlet Witch lead their own storylines. A new universe-wide team-up will not happen anytime soon. Let's say that again. A new universe-wide team-up will not happen anytime soon. But the MCU still needs a new leader who can spearhead Earth's mightiest heroes if the situation calls for it. Now, I think they're being quite clever about not doing an Avengers film straight away after Endgame. They're letting people feed off that, the shows and the movies to feed off that, but we will have a new Avengers roster and lineup, which is exciting. This is why this franchise works, isn't it? Seasoned heroes like Thor, Hulk and Hawkeye are still alive and active after the events of Avengers Endgame, but they will be busy throughout Phase 4. Will be busy in Asgard fighting Gore the God Butcher and mentoring Jane Foster in Thor Love and Thunder, while Smart Hulk will be guiding Jennifer Walters in the She-Hulk Disney Plus show, and Cliff Barton will be training his protege Kate Bishop in her own Hawkeye series. Captain Marvel and War Machine will be tangled in complicated conflicts in Captain Marvel 2, and Armor Wars and White Vision will be more than busy trying to find himself after being torn apart and rebuilt in WandaVision. So this is what I mean. This is what you want from a franchise. It's so interesting in so many different directions. Wanda Maximoff opened Phase 4 of the MCU with her own show, where she finally earned her Scarlet Witch title. She might now be the most powerful MCU character, as she's still likely to open the multiverse and have a hand in the arrival of mutants, but she may not be the most influential MCU hero just yet. While Agatha Harkness confirmed Wanda's power exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme, It's Doctor Strange who's destined to be the best of us, according to the Ancient One, who referred to his role as the most influential sorcerer supreme. Doctor Strange will probably teach Wanda about formal magic in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness before mentoring Peter Parker in Spider-Man No Way Home. He will also need to defend his title as the Guardian of Time when Loki travels through different timelines in his Disney Plus show, and when Kang the Conqueror arrives to mess with Scott Lang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Although the Time Stone from the main timeline has been reduced to atoms, these two villains represent an undeniable threat to the universe. Doctor Strange can't simply ignore them. On top of his job as the world's most important sorcerer, Doctor Strange is also the most appropriate Avenger to lead the next generation of superheroes. Magic has become one of the central powers of Phase 4, and Doctor Strange is the most experienced Avenger when it comes to magic. A leadership role fits perfectly his character arc given... Let's say that again. A leadership role fits perfectly for his character arc, given he started out as a self-centered professional and may end up as a selfless teacher, which is what the ideal Sorcerer Supreme should be. Although Scarlet Witch's power could help the heroes much more, she still has all her attention on recovering her lost children and learning about her Darkhold prophecy. Besides, Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange has all the charisma to fill the Robert Downey Jr. shaped hole Tony Stark left in the MCU. Yet a very good article. A short one, but a very good article. Look, I would imagine that Benny Cumberbatch is probably one of the highest paid artists in the MCU now. And, you know, you want him to be the one who's there in all the movies. Doctor Strange is an epic character. I liked his first movie. I can't wait to see him in Spider-Man 3. I can't... You know, when they unleashed the titles of Phase 4, and I heard the title for Doctor Strange, you know, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I thought, I fucking love that title. I'm going to be watching that movie. That's the movie I'm most excited about. I wasn't really excited about the other titles at first. I am now. And I think once we heard Sam Raimi was going to be directing this movie, I think we all stood up and said, oh, yes, something's going on here. They're doing something a little bit special with Phase 4, and I can't wait. I've said bad things about the MCU in the past. As I say, you can find receipts. I'm a DC stan who's bitter and a bit envious of the success of the MCU, and just that the fans are serviced more and listen to more. It's just such a great environment, and it's just a shame my universe, the DC universe, hasn't done the same things in its live action. And it's been a bit of a mess, but I still, as I said the other day, the DCEU, bad franchise with some great movies, and I would certainly celebrate most, if not all, the movies. Anyway, what do you think about everything I've discussed today? Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and if this video gets enough views, I will be mixing and amalgamating both DCEU content and MCU content. Let's see how we get on. See you again soon.